Things aren't going perfectly, but they are still going. My biggest issue at the moment is this fucking highway. Mate. This company needs to finish this. I've got a funny feeling this might not get completed. And I don't know how we're going to fix it. I hope it comes up soon. But for the time being, we've got this Benfi Festival. Our motorcade slowly made its way towards the magnificent Benfi High Arts Centre. Night was falling and the festival was about to begin. I flipped through the brochure that had been given to us at the hotel. On the front page there was a face of Curtin Lest, Mayor of Anrica. He was a Benfi native who had a long-standing relationship with the city's current mayor, and he'd been personally invited to make tonight's opening speech. Well, that's handy because we've just made relations with Anrica. The Benfi Festival was one of the biggest events of the year. It originally marked the start of the annual religious pilgrimage, a week-long journey still undertaken by devout Neurists. But today was better known as a cultural celebration that drew thousands of revelers to the city. Monotheistic religion teaching that the only creator is the divine God and the saint Dast is the divine method. So it's like Christianity in it, by the sounds of it. It could be any religion because they're all the fucking same. Just a different story, same story with loads of different fucking names. Right, anyways. There were film screenings, concerts, theatre and dance performances, art exhibitions and celebrity-studded nightly galas. The opening ceremonies were broadcast on TV and watched by millions. As the car slowed, a coterie of reporters and security guards rushed to meet us. I turned my attention to Monica. Since I refused her request to make the opening speech, her attitude toward me had changed. She now only spoke to me if I asked her a question, or if it was something important concerning the children. That's very immature. I think she understands that a lot more is at stake than this, so she wants to sort her fucking life out, otherwise I'm going to go and plaster on another woman's fanny. Just to let you know. I'm just kidding, it wouldn't happen, but she needs to be fucking told. Will you ever forgive me? I told you my reasons. I know and I understand. She clearly did not want to pursue the topic any further. As soon as Sergei opened the door, we were enveloped by the roar of the crowd. The next few minutes were a blur of handshakes, photos and reporters' questions. The onlookers cheered as we walked the red carpet to the newly built arts centre. We followed the guards through the cavernous white halls until we came to a set of arched doors leading to the auditorium. We waited outside as security did a quick sweep of the area, then headed in. I had been asked to make a quick set of remarks introducing Curtin Lest. I beckoned Monica to join me on the podium. I'm going to find my seat. She brushed past me, took her seat in the front row and crossed her arms. I walked along to the podium. Monica sounds like a bit of a bitch. Some people just can't get over the fact that they've been told no, and it's a big turn off for me that. Sometimes you just need to fucking get over it, smile and get on with your life. You know what I mean? Like, she must remember. This is what I think she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand her place. She's not the president. I am. She's the president's wife. Which, and is it just me? Does that make you fuck all? I don't think a president's wife should have any say in anything. You're just a president's wife. Do you not have your own career? Aside from just being the thing hanging off the president's arm. And that goes for even if you had a female president. If her husband, what the fuck is that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's nothing. You haven't been elected. You've got no say. Get on with your own life like you would have if we both had separate jobs. Anyway, I spoke for just a minute, reading a paragraph of my speechwriter had churned out about the importance of the festival in Benfi to Swordland. I concluded by inviting Curtin Lest, the mayor of Anrica, to the podium. I stepped down and joined Monica in the front row. Her arms were still folded. Welcome to the first day of the Benfi Festival. He paused after a moment to let the crowd cheer, and his eyes briefly met mine. Nod. This is a night for the people of Benfi, indeed for the people of Swordland, to put aside the differences and come together in celebration. Yet, as we unite for the festivities, we must remember the real reason we are gathered here. The crowd fell silent. The people were giving their full attention to what he had to say. The festival was founded around the principles of our cherished religion, Yet over the years it has been severed from its sacred roots and become something else, something more perverse. An excuse for public drunkenness and grotesque displays of flesh, an occasion for young women to parade their bodies and engage in lascivious behaviour. As he went on, I could see Monica becoming increasingly agitated. What in the hell is he talking about? I don't even know what this word is. Lascivious behaviour. What century does he think we live in? Just let it be. Monica turned back to watching the speech, a frown on her face. Perversion hidden under the guise of art is not befitting the beautiful city of. The crowd was becoming restless. Many of the younger attendees were murmuring in disagreement, while a few of the other ones were nodding vigorously. As I said, perversion hidden under the guise of art is not be enough. Oh, Monica's going wild. The hall fell silent. Monica rose and continued. Mr. Lest, it's not young women who are a disgrace to this fine festival but you. You and your backwards puritanical attitudes, which have been holding this country back for far too long. I'm going to watch the event unfold. She's going to make her decision. She has to stand by it and deal with it. Monica turned to face the audience, speaking loud enough to be heard without a microphone. Now, since she is going to have her say anyway, we might as well let her do it. Because now, he's probably not going to hate me as a president, he's going to hate my wife. And this is what matters at the moment, not this. Women of Sworden, we must not let people like Mr. Lest use religion as a justification to demean and oppress us. Our time has come. Shocked gasps ran through the crowd. Few people rose and applauded. Curtin Lest waited to speak. I think Miss Rain is forgetting her place. What do you think my place is, Mr. Lest? The kitchen? The festival is not about your retrograde traditions. We are living in a modern times now. It's 1954. And it isn't your place to decide how the people of Benfi, especially the women, should be celebrating their own festival. I'm going to do nothing. I looked at the podium to see Curtin Lest's piercing gaze on me. There would surely be a price to pay for this. Well, there was going to be a price to pay either way, and this is the way things have turned out. It's the way it's going. Mr. President, could you please control your wife before she embarrasses herself any further? You know what, Mr. Curtin? My wife is absolutely right. Monica looked at me, surprise registering on her face. Thank you, Anton. I turned to Curtin. Your task was to give an opening speech, not a moral lecture. I will finish my speech if you'll allow it, Mr. President. I wonder what the people of Benfi think about your sentiments. I turned around to look at the crowd. The people immediately started booing Curtin. He ignored them and continued with his speech. Benfi have always been a beacon of culture, tradition and religion. Many battles have been fought over this precious city. Army after army has tried to claim it for their own, but we fought back and won each time. We stand here thanks to strong men who were able to protect their families, their lands, their way of living. Every day I praise God that we have succeeded so far. Scattered applause broke out from some of the older members of the audience. I leaned over to Monica. He sounds more like a priest than a politician. I do not like it when the two collide, me neither. Yet the traditions that form the very fabric of our society are being tested even as I speak. He looked pointedly at Monica. We must stay true to our values so that Sworden can prevail, so that Benfi can prevail. With these at the forefront, I am convinced that Sworden will continue to be the greatest nation in the world. I invite every single one of you to celebrate our roots and our traditions at this holy Benfi festival. I hereby declare the festival open. Praise God, praise Sworden, praise Benfi. And Morgana Westcore. Return sister. Most of the people in the hall finished the decades-old saying, including me. Monica's lips moved, but she didn't say the words out loud. He exited the stage as the band struck up the official festival anthem. I spent the rest of the evening alternatively watching the festivities and conversing with local politicians. By the time we got back to the hotel, I was exhausted. But thanks to the festivities still raging outside, and the sound of Monica tossing and turning beside me, I couldn't sleep at all. WPB protest bill. The Workers' Party of Bludia spokesperson Ejol has condemned the decision to sign the Swedish language bill and organised a huge rally in the city of Dyer to protest the newly signed law. The protesters pulled in thousands of people from many different political movements. Local police reports that they are watching the situation closely, and so far no attempts to incite violence have occurred. Well, you can protest as much as you want, it's going to make no difference. Refugees of Vernon. Reports from the border and the Wessex city Vernon show there are about 1,000 people running away from Wessex military forces towards the Swedish border. Well, they're going to be in for a big shock because they're not getting in. Protest and looting. Protest and occasional looting continues in the region of Nagas. The police reports that the violence has been minimised and the situation is mostly under control outside the big cities. East Stored Police Force reports that several militants have been hiding among the protesters and are being watched closely. Wehlen deploying special forces to Vernon. Downtime at home. Right, this should be interesting. It felt like eternity since the Benfi Festival. Had it really only been less than 24 hours? I was at home now, drinking an afternoon coffee on my balcony. A stack of newspapers by my side. I picked them up one by one, reading and rereading the articles about the festival. Some of the newspapers were merciless against Monica for interrupting Curtin during a speech. A few even called for her to be barred from political matters. Others expressed their support. In any event, I was relieved that the incident hadn't reflected too badly on me, and that was the biggest thing. I didn't need it to affect my position. I was putting the last newspaper down as Monica joined me on the balcony. Listen, can we talk for a bit? Of course, what is it? Monica sat and picked up the newest newspaper. She pointed to a particularly insulting headline on the front page. I never in a million years would have wished for this, Anton. I just wanted to thank you for supporting me and apologise for creating such a spectacle. All I wanted is to bring the people of Swordsland together the way you're able to, but not like this. Her eyes were getting moist. A single tear fell onto the newsprint. I don't want to say I told her so, but at the end of the day I did tell her so. If you're going to succeed in this, you have to be stronger. I know you can be. Oh, Anton. Her eyes filled with gratitude. I could see she'd slept a little as I had since the festival. Thank you. One more thing, you know how stubborn I am. Perhaps the festival wasn't the proper forum to air my views on women's rights, but I still needed to do this, Anton. I want to officially adopt this cause as First Lady to be able to work on reforms, attend meetings, rally support among female politicians. I know this is something you've been passionate about as well. Can I count on you? Of course, my love. I'm looking forward to working closer together. I'm going to let her do this. Oh, Anton, this means so much to me. Monica hugged me tightly and I felt some of the past day's tension melt away. Thank you. A noise came from the balcony door. We both turned our heads to see Dina standing there. Mama, I'm hungry. Let's go to the kitchen, baby. We'll make Papa the best snack ever. Yeah. Oh, well, at least I want to get some nice food out of it. They left the balcony and returned half an hour later with a large cookie. Oh, nice. Dina had written my name in icing on it. As I sipped my coffee and nibbled the cookie, I thought that I had made the right choice. Things were going to get harder, but at least my life at home was somewhat peaceful. Economic report. The Ministry of Statistics along with the Ministry of Economy and the Central Bank have delivered a preliminary economic status report detailing that the recession has slowed down significantly. Excellent, let's hope the report is correct. And the system is likely to reach stability soon if the current progress is maintained. Minister Hall said the signs were good, but more needed to be done. Okay, finally our first bit of fucking positivity. First Lady steps up. Arcasian access to Ellery Base. Preparations to begin the Ellery Air Force Base to expand the hangars and restructure the security of the airbase in order to welcome the Arcasian planes in the short future. Arcasian security and logistics professionals have already been welcomed to the base to work with the Swordfish officials. Okay. Well, that's good because Enrica, wait there, Enrica. Okay. Build Runeberg border fortifications. For more choices. Structural military weaknesses were spotted in parts of the border against Runeberg. With additional funds we can mend the issues and plug the holes in our defences. If it would come to the worst case scenario, the endeavour led by General Kruger and the Ministry of Defence can be initiated. Can't build it, mate. It's not what I want to do. Sorry if that offends. Sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. It's not happening, mate. Budget allocation of Swordfish Armed Forces. Right, so this is an allocation. To determine the current situation of the military and its spending policy, we had a meeting in the White Room. Peter Valken and Losef were seated. General Valken, Mr. Lancier, let's start with the briefing. Very well, Mr. Vice President. We have prepared a briefing to convey further details about the current situation of our military. First off, we have received an updated communication from the Arcasian Military Command. Their planes are being moved into the Ellery Air Base as we speak, under our supervision, of course. Do your best to make them feel at home. I think it's Iosif. Iosif and Valken look at each other. We will try our best. Now let's move to our military. Which branch would you like to know about? What's the situation of our army? According to the latest reports, Camp Strongarm, currently we field 3 armies totaling of approximately 420,000 active troops. Sorry, 400,000 active troops. Which is a good amount. The real issue we're having is the quality, not quantity. What is the equipment status? Our army is quite outdated by today's military standards. Most of our equipment is 2 decades old. To make up for our lack of modern military equipment, we resort to a large number of soldiers, which is not really a long-term solution. I've been trying hard to reduce the effects of this problem. It is very problematic. We need more funding towards modernisation, otherwise our army will be seen as weak. Where is our army deployed? The 1st Army is stationed in the Lesbia and Wehlen borders to protect the way into the central regions of Swordland. The 2nd Army, our strongest force, has been situated by the Runeberg border. The 2nd Army has a large mountain commando force and is the best equipped army because they are facing Runeberg. The 3rd Army near Angolian border and coastal areas faces Valgsland. Due to our bitter past, we generally keep a coastal defence force, although many years ago the decimation of our fleet is still not forgotten. How do we compare to other armies? Runeberg fields about 6 armies amounting to 1 million soldiers. Lesbia fields 5 armies which amounts to 800,000 and Valgsland army is 140,000. Okay, so we are severely outnumbered. Wehlen fields an army amounting to 100,000, so that's less than ours, and Agnolia fields 2 armies with a total of 200,000. The sheer size of Runeberg's army is because of their forced conscription laws. Due to their massive gold reserves, they are able to afford it. On the other hand, the Lesbian army is the most advanced, followed by the Valgslandian army. Both of these countries put lots of money into modernising their military. I'm curious about another branch. Very well. What about the Navy? Currently constitutes 59 ships with a total of 60,000 sailors and support staff. As you know, these ships are commanded from our main naval base in Conriat, where our flagship, the SN Rinnan, is docked. Which seas do you patrol? Markian Sea, the Grey Strait and the Antician Sea. Our Navy protects all of our coastal regions, however we make sure we are not still in our defence. We prioritise certain regions over others, like Greater Holsword. We often patrol the routes that are close to the shipping lanes. Another thing to note is after the takeover of Hageland, where our Navy has led the incursion operations to protect Agnolia, we also take part in some joint Navy drills as well. What about our capabilities and power projection? We are limited to our near region due to the size and technological level of our naval ships. If we had modern support vessels, we could participate in international operations. That's right, we still hold some power though. If needed be, we could block the trade at the Mark Sea. To make up our weaknesses, allying ourselves to naval power could also help protect our seas. Let's hear about the other branches. Which one? Air Force. 410 planes, only 140 are jet planes and not in great condition. 30,000 pilots and staff work the Air Force and are commanded from the Mark Air Force Base in Earlery. How experienced are our pilots? Average. $450 hours of flight compared to nearly double or triple that in the other regions. We can't increase training time because fuel costs are high as well. How does our Air Force work together with other military branches? Trained as an independent tactical support branch, which means it assists other branches but doesn't collaborate. This does cause some issues like friendly fire and missed close air support opportunities. There are ways to improve collaboration with joint operation rooms, something to think about surely. Operational capabilities, blah blah blah, I'm not really interested. Let's move on. The Ministry of Defence is furious about the reduction in the military budget. This was a betrayal in our eyes. We are sorry to hear that. This is the new age where the military is not top priority. We are going to transform to a new Swordland. This is the age of Runeberg expansionism, and here we are cutting funding for the military. We will need to cut training time, let soldiers go and stop purchasing equipment. This is disastrous and we will destroy the armed forces as we know it. Listen mate, put it into perspective. A fucking gun's a gun. A weapon's a weapon. It might be 20 years outdated, but you need to look after your equipment. We can't just keep replacing equipment when the old equipment still works. It's not efficient. The military makes do. I'm sure you talented gentlemen will find a way to circumvent the cuts efficiently. Do not expect the Swedish Armed Forces to be a capable force after those budget changes. Let's calm down, gentlemen. Tell that to the hundreds of thousands that will lose their employment and the Honourable General Staff of the Armed Forces. We mean no insult to the Armed Forces. There are simply no resources left. You don't mean it, but it has been done. We expected much more from you, Mr. President. You've let us down. Let's hope that our enemies won't realise our weakness. Iosif and Vulcan were angry, but there was not much that could be done about it. The meeting had concluded as the sun set over the concrete jungle that was Halsord. Now it is though. You don't have to be happy about it. Oh shit, what's going on down here? And up here. Trade talks with Agnolia. It's finally coming down to it. The trade talks with Agnolia or Wehlen. I was siding towards Wehlen. Right, before we speak to I'm actually going to speak to Agnolia first. Education reforms. The Ministry of Education is reporting that the massive overhaul of the education system is progressing very well. All schools in Scotland will collaborate in the reduction of hours taught in citizenship, solism and nationalism subject. Great. Significant efforts are being made to lessen the political indoctrination in education. Perfect. Right, I'm going to start the trade talk with Agnolia. Because they're my second choice at the moment. Let's see if this changes. Swordland 1's flight from Halsord to Stalport took 3 hours but went very smoothly. We were about to touch down. David left his seat and came over while Simone was enjoying his newspaper. 2 sex lads and having a drink. Looks like we are about to land, Mr. President. I looked outside. I could see Helgeland, the island in between Valgstad and Agnolia. Now the thing is, from what I remember, Agnolia is going to ask for a reduction in trade tariffs. I don't think that's something that I'm going to be able to do. So many conflicts over a small piece of land. This island can barely sustain itself without outside help. I know, I was just thinking the same thing. I don't blame them, it's in a very strategic position. Certainly, if you have Hageland, that means you're in control of the whole Valgos channel. I suspect it'll be one of the topics that Mr. Van Hoorten will bring up as a bargaining chip. We must be careful. Helgeland might be under the control of Agnolia, but the international community is yet to recognise it for good reason too. Nobody wants to make an enemy of Valgland, especially because of the support of the United Contana and CSP. Me included, I wouldn't want to do anything to injure our relationship with Valgland. To be honest, I don't need to be making enemies. I'm happy to remain neutral, but I don't really want to be making enemies at this point in time. I agree, we should try our best to stay in the middle ground. Simon folded his newspaper, got up from his seat, and sat right next to us. Aside from the point of Hageland, we need to be careful with the additional requests. According to the deal that was negotiated so far, they want to sell us their steel for a higher price, and they are requesting easier access to our agricultural market. In return, they are promising cash flow and investments, especially in the Angland region. It's not hard to guess why. Precisely. Agnolian immigrants in our Angland region makes up a good chunk of the region's economy now. During the initial negotiations, they have brought up the topic of immigration many times. Our job will be harder because of our new tightened immigration laws. Let's see if we can shake hands on it. The pilot made an announcement that the descent has started. The large dockyards of the city and the canals appeared closer as our descent continued. Styleport was certainly a fitting name due to style meaning canal. A couple of minutes later we finally touched down, the plane parked, took a final look out from the window. The welcoming ceremony from Agnolia was waiting along the red carpet outside. After the guards made their way out, I exited the plane. Wave at the crowd. I waved at the crowd that gathered. There were many camera flashes. I started to make my way downstairs. Prime Minister Van Hoorten was nowhere in sight. Instead, I was greeted by the Foreign Minister. After handshakes and a couple of photos, I moved the car to where Sergei was waiting to make our way to the office of the Prime Minister. Good day, sir. I hope the flight was comfortable. Yes, it was. Thank you, Sergei. I got in the car and we made our way through the foreign street. Our convoy was protected by Swedish and Agnolian guards in their vehicles. We began driving by the highway beside the port and saw dozens of dockyards and ships anchored. Some of the ships and machinery looked old. The city itself looked very grey and grim. Buildings had a touch of Runeberg's famous monarchian architecture with a mixture of Swedish signature domes on the other ones. We were now in the main road to the office of the Prime Minister. Looks like they're not too happy to see you, sir. Sergei pointed at the crowd that gathered on both sides of the street. It was a protest. They were shouting and yelling at our convoy. Some of them held the signs written in Swedish. Sweden must pay its debts to Agnolia. That's no way to start a discussion. I don't think anybody should believe that debts should be paid. You know, I never knew Angolians were so ungrateful. Not everyone sees a great leader like you every day. I wonder what propaganda their state is feeding them. They're afraid of you, sir. They're scared that Sweden will reach its potential. They don't want you to be seen as a great hero you are. The convoy started slowing down. We have arrived, sir. The car continued through the gates where the security vehicles went the other way. We finally came to a stop at the front door. Sergei left the car and opened the car door. I exited and began walking to the door, where dozens of press and Prime Minister were waiting for me. I saw the PM much more clearly as I entered the door. He was shorter than I thought. Mr. President, welcome to Agnolia and to the beautiful city of Stalport. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, it's great to be here. He reached out for a handshake. The press surrounding us had been waiting for this moment. Shake hands and hug after. We shook hands and I went for a hug, which was received well by the Prime Minister. The press went wild and took more pictures. He gestured to the entrance of the 200-year-old Parliament building. This way, please. We entered and the press followed us inside. I would like to present to you with a gift, a sign of friendship between our countries. An assistant showed up immediately with a large glass box in her hands. In it contained a single parchment inside. This here is one of the first treaties written in between Suzerain and Agnolia. May it mark the renewal of our friendship today as well. I hope so, Mr. Van Hoorten. Our photos were taken again. I gestured at one of my retainers who was holding our gift to the PM. Gift one of the original copies of the first constitution of Suzerain. Gift a sworddish bred puppy despite Martin's known fear of dogs. Gift an ornamental ceremonial sword made with swordish steel. I don't want him to have a original first constitution of Swordland, because that's... my constitution's different. Ah, an excellent specimen. This must be hundreds of years old. It looks like the swordish steel as well. Very fitting, thank you. The cameras flashed once again. Let's go to my office, follow me. I followed him and we entered the office of the Prime Minister. It was a room of wooden minimalist decoration. It was far more modest than I expected. We sat down, he leaned back and made himself comfortable. Sheesh, thankfully done with the ceremonies. I was just about to say the same. I'm not fond of these either. It's one of the tougher parts of our job. He got up from his chair and moved over to the bar. There were many varieties of liquor. Would you like a drink, Mr. Rain? Just water is fine. As you wish. He poured the drinks and gave mine to me before sitting down again. Let's get straight to business. Let's. First of all, I would like to say that I've been watching your recent changes to the immigration policy. We have worries about the new and tighter immigration laws. Immigrants are very important for beneficial economical development, and we believe that very much in Agnolia. I would definitely prefer Suzerain to be welcoming to Agnolian citizens and vice versa. Before I start caring about Agnolian citizens, I must care about my own people. A valid point, but you are not giving me much incentive to work with. He took a sip from his vodka. So tell me, Mr. Rain, is Suzerain a reliable trading partner to Agnolia? As long as Agnolia is a reliable trading partner. It's got to be mutual. I can assure you we are. He pauses for a moment. It was a good move to start building that highway. Overall, this will positively affect our trade. Well done, Mr. Rain. Thank you, you are very kind. Van Hoorten leaned back further in contemplation. Are you going to talk all day about what I have done or what we are going to sign this deal? So what's it going to be? I'm afraid, with all of your actions so far, I'm not convinced that Suzerain is the right partner for Agnolia. Suzerain is simply too volatile with the recent protests. We were willing at first, however. The situation has changed. We do not have confidence in your state anymore. I'm sorry that you've come all this way for this. Wait, can't we work something out? It's difficult, but I will still offer an alternative for the sake of our history together. First, you will allow us privileged access to your agricultural market. Okay, so this guy's coming out with the fucking Billy Big Bollocks. I'm interested to see what he's contemplating. And you will be buying steel from us from a higher price that rights the wrongs of the past. Wrong. And there is the issue. As you know, Hazeland has been long contested between Agnolia and Valgsland. You know how the international community does not recognise our rightful claim on the island, including Swordland. We can only agree to this deal if Swordland finally announces the recognition of Hazeland as Agnolian territory. You're asking too much. We are asking too much. I took you for someone you were not, I suppose, but you are no different than your predecessors. You are in no position to judge me. I have made my decision. I thought this could be the start of a new era, but apparently not. Well then, this guy was not willing to give an inch. I don't want to work with someone like that. Keep your state, keep your protests. He stood up from his chair. We must continue the official programme, as you know. We will pay a visit to our founder's grave for another ceremony. Afterwards, we will move on to the state dinner. After you. As soon as we left the office, I briefed Simon and David on the outcome of the meeting. The rest of our state trip was full of fake smiles, handshakes and incredibly long ceremonies, and even longer meetings between our ministers and their counterparts. When we came to the end of the trip, the way back was mostly silent. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief when we touched down in Holsword. Yeah, it's not going to work. So Continin. Let's put another a second satellite. Egil von Hoorten is playing with fire. Delivered a press conference in Halem about the escalating tensions in Hazeland. During the press release he said, Agnolia's unlawful occupation of the island will not stop us from doing whatever it takes to protect our people living in Hazeland. He heavily criticised and condemned Prime Minister Van Hoorten, saying, we're dealing with an illegal occupation force. Well, he's got big trouble on his hands and it's his own doing, fuck him. Let's see if this goes any better. Now this was my primary choice, so let's hopefully we can work something out here. Swordland one's flight from Horsland to Raklowitz took approximately 5 hours. Heavy turbulence. Blah blah blah. Shortly after our plane landed, the door opened. The sun blinded me for a moment. I saw the soldiers lined up on either side of a red carpet. There must have been at least 100 soldiers. The marching band started playing and the soldiers immediately saluted me. Salute the soldiers. At the bottom of the stairs, Wehlen Smolak was waiting for the next to a military jeep with a few soldiers by his side. There were a few reporters on the side waiting with their cameras. He was a tall man, almost as tall as me. He was wearing large sunglasses and his attire was a regular suit, contrasting with the military attire of everyone else in the field. Now this guy's a socialist, we must remember that. Mr. President, welcome to Raklowitz. He immediately motioned for an embrace. We hugged and many cameras went off at the same time. He turned around for a couple of additional poses. Thank you for inviting us. Now that the pleasantries are done, let's go. We'll take the jeep for a tour. With another tune from the marching band, we boarded the military jeep. He sat in the driver's seat and I sat next to him. As we started speeding up, the soldiers saluted again. Wehlen Smolak saluted back. Salute the soldiers. My security detail and Wehlen's security detail started following us immediately along with a team of reporters. We will first go to the city centre to see an opening of the salute of a statue. Whose statue? It's mine, of course. Fucking this guy. We kept making small talk about the flight and the weather until we reached this isn't English. And the weather until we started making our way to the city centre. On almost every corner, there were reporters taking photos of us. Oddly enough, every single street that we took seemed completely empty. Is Raklowitz always this empty? I had the locals close down their businesses because of your visit, so that you can enjoy the city more. There we are. This guy's fucking clueless. We arrived at the city centre. In the middle of a large plaza, there was a covered statue. Lots of people had gathered behind the fences, and they were waving both Solent and Wehlen flags. Wehlen waved back at them. My people have been very supportive of this visit, Mr. President. I'm sure you are delighted to see. A man came close to the fences and started yelling at Wehlen. With my limited knowledge of the Wezek language, I understood the words Wehlen and murderer. Almost instantaneously, 2 soldiers showed up from behind the man and he was taken away. Thankfully, the sun is up. Today will be a good day for the reveal. What will happen to the man that was protesting you? Oh, which man? The one in the crowd? Don't worry about the details. He must have been a troubled fellow. Let's focus on the event. We took our places in front of the statue. With a drum roll, the statue of Smolak was uncovered. The statue was done pretty well, except that he is made more masculine. He was wearing a cloak and holding a sword in his hand. Excellent statue, very lifelike. What do you think? Mr. Smolak, I don't have time for these games. Let's go straight into business. Don't worry, we will. Join me for a walk. I followed him on the streets. At every corner, more and more photos were taken. We stopped in front of a pastry vendor on the street. Give me 2 strudels. The man behind the stand smiled and gave us 2 strudels. Are we going to pay for it? I'm going to pay the street vendor. I put my hand in my wallet and brought up some money to give to the vendor. Hold up. Your money doesn't count here. I got this. He handed the money to the street vendor. The camera flashed again. Afterwards, we walked a short distance to the palace. Passing the gates of the palace, we made our way to the main building. Made from ivory-coloured stones, the old guard towers flanked the magnificent main building from both sides. The inside of the palace was very spacious, with a very large chandelier hanging from the ceiling. We finally reached the office of the president. The interior boasted gold ornaments on the walls, ivory colours and various jewels attached to the different artefacts of old. As it was customary in Wehlen, we sat down on the carpet. Now we can talk about our trade deal. Nod. But before that, fucking hell mate, he clapped his hands twice. Bring the quiche. A few assistants immediately entered the room carrying a large ornamented quiche. Is that a quiche? I don't know what it is. A well-known smoke, yeah it is. Smoking instrument. He inhaled the smoke and handed me the quiche. I don't smoke. Your loss, it's the finest tobacco on the land. He took another puff, filling the room with smoke. So, Mr. President, bah, that's too long. Can I call you Anton? Sure. Anton, tell me, what do you really think about Roomberg? Not much in particular. Like any other country, they have their needs and their own agenda. Yes, they do, but their ambitions are over Wehlen and Swordsland. We must be careful, Anton. I assure you, their time will come. Regardless, I would rather prevent further conflict in the region. You know as well as I do, Anton, they are coming whether we like it or not. They are the aggressor, not us. For now, I have something else in mind. What is it? He clapped his hands again. 2 assistants came in the room with a map of the border regions between Wehlen and Swordsland. He pointed at the border. Look. Bloods and their so-called BFF are causing problems for me in this region. I know that they are also a problem for you as well. I will not allow these traitors to exist in my border, so I will hit them with all of the might of Wehlen. These terrorists need to be destroyed. I call it Operation Bear Trap. What do you want from me? He grinned and lay back on the large pillow behind him. Here is the deal. I will give you the best trade deal in the region. You will give me your assistance crushing the terrorists on both of our borders. I need specifics. Sure. My spies have infiltrated BFF. This is something that I do want, actually. My spies have infiltrated BFF cells and they have found caches of KA-74. We traced them back to Roomberg. This alone justifies my retaliation to protect my country. Worst of all, we also found that similar shipments are going to Swordsland. Yes, Anton, you see, this is not just Wehlen's problem. Let's take a step back and talk about what you'll get in return. I propose you a no-tariff agreement, co-investment project and oil. In return, you will assist me in destroying the terrorists in my country. There might be international ramifications. To hell with all these international ramifications. I will protect my country. I don't care what they say. What I want from you in return for all the money and the resources is a joint operation between our armies against BFF. I took a moment to think about it. Let's negotiate Swordsland's contribution in this operation. You are a tough one, Anton. Normally I wouldn't offer anything else, but I like you. Here is my final offer. When the operation starts, with or without you, there will be stragglers trying to cross into Swordsland. We just want you to support the operation even if you don't join. Stop the terrorists from fleeing into your country, and you will have your deal. Simple, isn't it? What do you think? Deal. That is a deal. I'm not going to allow any terrorists into my country. Deal. I knew I could trust you, Anton. Tonight we will drink. He clapped his hands again. Drinks, dancers, music. A group of dancers and performers entered the smoke-filled room. As they performed their songs, we clinked our glasses to our newly found partnership while sipping the sweet Wessex liquor. The next day I returned to Swordsland with a hangover. We are making deals, we are making fuck. Let's see what happens. Swordsland's ratified a new trade agreement with Wehlen, so we've got a good trade deal. The negotiations also included a cooperation pact against the terrorist organisation Bloodish Freedom Front. Yep, terrorists are not welcome in our country. Speech of the President on the Reforms. I came to the Grand National Assembly of Swordsland to deliver a speech regarding the new constitution and asked for the support of the Assembly before the upcoming vote. I walked quickly through the corridors, giving my greetings to people on my way towards the Parliamentary Hall. When I entered the hall, the Assembly was in complete chaos, with shouting and cursing between the parties. There was a heavy argument about the proposal made by an MP from the NFP. I took my seat inside the special area reserved for the ministers. Gloria was shouting from her seat at the centre of the hall, and she hit the gavel 3 times, with each strike heavier than the one before. Order! Order! I saw Casario Kibna standing up from a seat and shouting towards the members of the PFJP. Now these are 2 rival organisations, so yes, there's all going to be tensions. Mr. Kibna, calm yourself, show some respect for the procedures of this assembly. Despite her efforts, the argument continued for a couple of minutes before everybody took back their seats and finally went quiet. 2 minutes. Next time when I tell you to do so, either take your seat or leave the hall, so we can proceed with the procedures of this assembly and continue our duties. Some MPs from the NFP side shouted back in her protest. Honourable ladies and gentlemen, if you will allow me to continue, she pointed at me. We have the President here with us today. He is asked to give an important announcement. The assembly fell silent. You have the floor, Mr. President. I walked to the stand as loud clapping started in the USP side. Ladies and gentlemen of the Grand National Assembly of Swordsland, I am here today to raise important questions regarding our outdated constitution. The Supreme Court holds too much power. We're going to say the same thing as we did before. I continued, we've already heard this. Therefore we propose changes to the Constitution to prepare Swordsland for a fast-changing new world. We must finally rewrite the Constitution of Sol and break the change of the past. I call everyone to stand by us to make historic changes to the Constitution and bring it to the standards of today's world. That's better. That's not pointing any fingers, but it's bringing everyone together. And bring it to the standards of today's world. We will break the Supreme Court's authority over constitutional changes. It will break down obstacles before me. We will rebalance the branches of government to ensure a more democratic process. I focused on change. We must not be afraid of change. The world is changing and Swordsland needs to change. It is earned after years of solacism in the last decades. We will rewrite the old and make a constitution that will reflect the will of the people and the open way for a democratic Swordsland. We will be strengthening the presidential decrees. We will make Swordsland great again. Let's embrace the future. Loud noise came from the USP and NFP seats. But are these loud noises good or bad? I took a breath and continued. Ladies and gentlemen of the Assembly, we must set aside our differences. I ask everyone to think clearly about our current situation and join us for change. Be part of a new era for Swordsland, join us and vote for our proposal. I ask everyone to support us in the upcoming vote. Be part of the new era. Yeah, we want people to be with us. Let's write the future together. Let's write the future together. Finish with a poem. I'm going to finish with a poem, fuck it. I'm not going to salute the crowd, I'm going to finish with a poem. I decided to read a poem before I ended my speech. Ooh, which one's going to go where? There is a destiny above destiny. There is a victory grown with every morning. There's a destiny above destiny. There is my country, beyond my existence or non-existence. Good, because I've got to take it away from me. There's a country that needs to be there regardless of any president. Any president. There is a spring that blossoms out of the graves of our fallen. Fear not when the dark falls, there is an artist painting the sun. Do not dare call it defeat, there is a fortress made from my ashes. Do not doubt the one, there is the decision coming from the... Fear not when the dark falls, there is an artist painting the sun. Beyond the next morning, there is a victory waiting to be won. The assembly roared with all kinds of different reactions. The whole United Southern Party stood up and started applauding. Phew, fucking hell, it went well. Thank you for the speech, Mr. President. I walked back to my seat as many MPs asked to speak. Franz Richter was among them. Yes, Mr. Richter. This is the guy for Taurus Hoorten and the People's Freedom for Justice Party. Now, this guy didn't like me. But what's he going to say? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would just like to thank Mr. President for his speech. We, the People's Freedom and Justice Party, stands in agreement with the need for a new constitution. However, our demands seem to be ignored by the government. Even though we made the reform committee's work possible, it was us who were pushed back from the process. As long as Mr. President continues to follow the footsteps of his party's founder, we will do our best to stop the proposal. We do not welcome this attempt to break our system further. I ask Mr. President to reevaluate his decision and not ignore the demands of our people. Otherwise, you should never use the word democratic again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Suddenly, Kesaro Kibna started yelling from his seat. You must have lost your mind to claim you were the reason for the reform talks, Mr. Richter. You and the PFJP are nothing but puppets of Western interests. I agree with that. Order. I demand to speak. Gloria gave him a stare. She looked annoyed. Very well, Mr. Kibna, go ahead. Mr. President. He looked directly at me. The nationalist movement wants to thank Mr. Rain for his priorities. The National Front Party will not stand in your way. But let it be known that the NFP will do its best to aid with the draft of the new constitution and to reach an agreement with the USP. If our concerns are listened to, NFP has the power to make this proposal pass. We will stand together with your attempt to protect and strengthen our established political culture and national values. Thank you. Kesaro went back to his seat, but the chaos in the assembly continued. Asked to speak. Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Richter. I looked at him. It is you who shouldn't use the word democratic when you want your way to succeed, but disregard our opinion. Yeah, we are not specifically cooperating with someone, but everyone. We ask you to also join us. That's right. Just because you want something and you don't get it doesn't mean we aren't cooperating. This is the fact. We're not specifically cooperating with someone, but everyone. We ask you to also join us. Do not stand against change. Be part of it, Mr. Richter. We can do so much more together. He murmured something from his seat which was illegible from my position. Thank you. Let's be sincere. Gloria looked at me to see if I'd finished my response. Mr. Kibna. I looked at him. We'd like to have a cooperation between our parties. Thank you for your support. We are looking forward to working with the NFP. I welcome your positive attitude. Gloria looked at me to see if I finished my response. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I got up from my seat and started to walk towards the exit. MPs kept shouting and responding to each other, creating a loud mess where nothing was legible. Order, order, this topic is finished. We are moving on to our next topic. I slowly left the hall. The shouting could be heard from every corridor of the Grand National Assembly. We've made waves. Some positive, some negative. Oh, looks like we're moving into another chapter. Right, before we do that, reform status. Lucian Gillard reported that so far they have been able to get in total 142 signatures behind the proposal. The work is underway to increase the support and reach out to necessary members to reach 150. Fucking hell, we're only 8 off. 8 off. What are we going to do to make that up? Border report. Defence Minister Losif reports that the Wehlen borders have been closed and the divisions of the 3rd Army are ready for the operation. Excellent. Right then, lads, what we'll do is we'll call it an episode there. When we come back, we're going to move into the next chapter. We'll see the repercussions of our actions, see if we can reach these 150 votes. It's going to be tight. It's going to be really tight, but it's exciting. See you in the next one, lads.